So that's what's happened. You've all been led here. You're all seekers of spirit, or otherwise, you wouldn't have dedicated all this time this weekend and also all this money to learn this stuff. And it's spirit working through us and with us. And it's going to help us live amazing lives. And it's going to help us help others live amazing lives through example. You'll meet all kinds of just wonderful people from all walks of life. We've had students from 14 countries that have taken part in the angelic attendant training. You guys are 21, you're class 21. And so that gives you an idea of how many people have done this. And they've taken it back to their actual lives. You know, they can be physicians or judges. We've got Broadway stars. We have a nun who's in the graduate group. We have plumbers and housewives and lots of professors and lots of teachers and lots of medical providers. People from all walks of life. And it helps them get closer to spirit and then lead by example. So you're all leaders. That's why you're here. How did this all begin? Well, you probably read in my book, Angelic Attendants, what really happens as we transition from this life into the next. I got this spirit guide. He's my main spirit guide, and his name's Pope Clement VI. And this is an actual picture of him. So one day I was with my teacher and mentor, Susan, and she was zapping on me. She was doing a healing on me. And when I'm in her office, she's got a massage table, and my deceased loved ones are lined up on both sides of the table. My parents, my grandparents, my late sister, my late brother-in-law, even my dog Katie. Her little paws are like up, she's standing on her hind legs and her little paws are there, her little spirit. And so one day this dead Pope shows up, and he was down in the left, come down near my left foot. Susan could see him too. And I said to him, well, who are you? And he said, I'm Clement. And I said, okay, I never heard of a Pope Clement. And he laughed and he said, well, I was the sixth one. And I said, okay, great. Can I help you? Like, why are you here? And he said, well, you're supposed to teach the world what happens when somebody dies. And I said, I'm not doing that. And he said, well, yeah, everything that you've experienced in your life has led you to this place. And I said, yeah, I'm a businesswoman. I'm not doing that. And he kind of chuckled. And he says, yeah, you are. So I finished with Susan. We were both laughing about it. I went to my car and I looked up this guy on my phone. Well, it turns out he's best known for his prayers for the dead and his prayers for the dying because he was in office during the Black Plague when 2/3 of Europe died. And I thought, okay, Ryan, you can't make this up. So more about Pope Clement in our next section. But he, since that time, and this has been about 10 years, he's my main spirit guide. I mean, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, spirit guides and past lives and all that. And so he shows up. I talk to him like just a regular conversation. He's always got his hat on when he shows up. And he has his shepherd's rod. It didn't look like the cross. This must have been a fancy picture of him. Looks like a regular shepherd's rod that the Pope uses in this day and age. And so I said to him one time, I said, Clement, you don't have to wear the hat. I know who you are after all these years. And he said, yeah, but it looks really good, don't you think? And I said, yeah. So he's got a great sense of humor. He is, I've learned not to argue with him when he tells me something. He doesn't really tell me, he suggests things. And when I tell him all the reasons why I can't do it, I've stopped that long ago. More about that later. So back to the class. One day I was working with a client in South Africa, and her mother-in-law was dying. And so she and 5 of her family members were on the phone with me. And we were talking, and the mother-in-law got sick. All of a sudden, she was in a coma. They didn't know if she had a will. They didn't know if she had funeral plans. They didn't know anything. So we had kind of a conference call between the family in South Africa and the mother-in-law and me. And so at the end of the conversation, the mother-in-law told us where her will was. She told us what her wishes were. She told us she was ready to go, all that stuff. So at the end of the call, Colleen was my client's name. She said, "Can you teach me this stuff?" I said, yeah, I guess. I never thought about it. And so my next client asked me the same thing. And then the client after that asked me the same thing. So I got 3 clients in a row asking me if I can teach them how to do this stuff. So when I got done with my 3rd client, I said to Clement, pulled him in, dialed him up. And I said, "Am I supposed to do a class?" And he said, "Yeah, like, duh." And I said, "I don't even know where to start. I'm not a teacher." He goes, "Yeah, you are." I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Yeah, you are." And he said, "Here's what you need to do." He basically downloaded the lesson plan. He basically said, "You need to do it in this format. You need to use Zoom." I said, "What's Zoom?" This was before I even knew what Zoom was. He said, "It's kind of like GoToMeeting." And I said, "Dead popes know about GoToMeeting?" And he said, "We know it all. Universal energy, universal intelligence." So he said, "Do this, do that, charge $2,500. I said, $2,500? Nobody's gonna come. Nobody's gonna do that. You mean 250? He goes, 2,500. And I said, "Okay, nobody's gonna come." So then he said, "And you need to start it on this day." And I said, "Well, that's 10 days from now." And he said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "I can't do it in 10 days. I got to get my webmaster. I got to put together the curriculum. I got to, I'm telling him all the reasons why I can't do it." He's like, yeah, just do it. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to follow this into the unknown, right? And he gave me all these parameters. So got my web guy to put up a page on the website, came up with the curriculum. I was kind of writing it as I went. And we released the web page on Sunday. I had announced it on my show on Thursday. So I talked to him on Tuesday. Thursday, I announced announced the training on my show. Sunday, we put the web page up. By Tuesday, we'd have had 11 people sign up from 4 countries. And I said, okay. That's how all this began. So the prices stayed the same, whether you're online, whether you're in person. It stayed the same. Since that time, I've learned about numerology in the Bible. What's 2 + 5? 7. 7's the number for spiritual perfection. So you're the 21st class, the price stays the same. I asked him when I was doing the first in-person class, we did that last fall and we'll have another one this fall. I said, "Do I need to change the price?" $2,500. So this is all coming from him. We're going to talk about energy as we go through this class because everything's made out of energy. Nikola Tesla, most of us know the name Tesla just because of the car. Most of us don't know the history of Tesla, but he was a brilliant scientist that lived during Edison's time, and they were contemporaries and they were competitors, really. Tesla worked for Edison for a while, but Edison was into electromagnetic energy and building power plants so that they could charge for the electricity. Tesla's into scalar energy, plasma energy that comes from the stars and the sun and the moon. And he says, if you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, vibration. That's what we're going to focus on. We learned when we were little, everything's made out of energy. It's just vibrating at a different rate. That's why it appears different to us. I'm sitting at my big cherry desk. You can hear me knocking on it. It's very solid. It's very heavy. I can't move it myself. And I know that it's just because the molecules are moving more slowly because it gives us density. The Wi-Fi that we're using to do this class, we can't see it, but we know that it works because we're all on this training together. Now, let's talk about spirit and the body. Most of us have heard we're all spirits attached to a body having a human experience. Well, in Catholic school, 12 years of Catholic school, I was taught the spirit is someplace in the chest area. That's not what I perceive. What I perceive is the spirit's the main part of us, and the body's inside the spirit. So if you look at the old masters' paintings of the saints and religious figures, oftentimes they'll have a halo around their head or around their whole body. That's their energy field. It's their spirit. It's their aura. It's all the same thing. I believe that the painters from ancient times could see people's auras. I believe everybody could see it. And then as we became more well-educated and more proof-based, we've just basically lost a lot of that intuitive ability that we all have when we're born. And that's what we're going to be doing in this class is we're waking that up. And we're going to be sure that you guys are all going to be able to go back to being able to see all of this stuff or feel it or sense it. So the spirit is the main part of us, the everlasting part. The body is inside the spirit. And how I describe this is, think of a goldfish in a bag of water. If you go to the pet store and buy a goldfish, they're gonna put it in a bag of water so you can get it home. Well, if you think about it, the fish represents the body, the water represents our spirit because the body's inside the spirit, and the plastic bag represents the energy field membrane. Now that's the container that holds the energy that makes up our body and our spirit. And it expands and contracts based on what our vibration is. Most of you, I've done a private consult with you, and if it was medical in nature, we've done an energy field membrane healing. And we're going to get more into this in depth tomorrow with the energy healing part of the training. But this is what I'm talking about. If there's a pinhole in that plastic bag and that bag is leaking water, that fish isn't going to be in very good shape forever. You know, he's going to be okay for a while, but then when enough water drains out, he's going to be in trouble. So that's going to come into play when we're talking about the medical stuff. This is a picture that was sent by a graduate, Dr. Maria Amasanti, who you'll meet tomorrow. And she sent this to me. This is her girlfriend, and this was her LinkedIn picture. And she said, I didn't see anything on my phone. She said, put it on your computer and blow it up. Can you guys see the eyes up near the top of where that yellow circle is? Can you see that? Shake your head if you can. You can blow it up on your computer, but it looks a little creepy. When I first saw it, I thought, wow, it looks like those Avatar people and the blue people in the James Cameron movie, the Avatar movies. But that's a spirit. That's this woman's spirit. And you can see it in her energy field. See that bubble? That's part of the spirit. We're going to come back to that more. So when you see these little orbs in photographs, put them on your desktop and blow them up. And a lot of the time you can see faces in them. So it was really interesting when Maria sent that to me. All right, so particles, we're all fractals of the divine, right? When a spirit shows itself to us, it takes a lot of energy for them to materialize into an image because they're just energy particles. I think this picture really depicts it well. And when a spirit is coming to see us and we hear about, oh, you know, I had an evil spirit visit me. All spirits are pure love. There are no evil spirits. There is no hell. That was all made up by religions and governments and civilizations to control the masses with fear. But one of my favorite stories about somebody saying an evil spirit is my late friend Deborah. She told me that one time she had this evil spirit come through her front door. And I said, well, explain it to me. And she said it looked like one of those robbers with a pair of pantyhose over his face. You know how in the movies, that's what the robbers would do. They'd put like a stocking like a pair of pantyhose or just one stocking on it, and it would distort their face. Well, I knew Deborah's front door was really dense. So as that spirit was coming through the front door, it distorted that image that she was seeing. You with me on that? And so what happens when we have an experience that we don't understand? We go to fear. Fear is we're programmed for fear. We need to be fearful of things to stay alive. But she immediately went into fear. And she had an umbrella stand next to her front door, and her son's golf club was in there, his driver. So she went and got the golf club, and she said, okay, you evil spirit, you need to leave my house. Well, spirits are always going to leave if you don't want them around. They're pure love. They don't want to upset you. So we did an instant replay of that. We found out that this was a guy who was looking for his daughter. He had died during the Civil War, and his daughter was reincarnated as my friend Deborah's daughter. So we got the guy's name, we got where he was from, we were able to find that in census materials and things like that, and we helped him go into the light. But it's how spirit appears. They're never going to appear in a way that, let me back up. Sometimes they'll appear maybe in a scary way, and we're going to learn how to deal with that. But just remember, all spirits are pure love. So when they appear, they may look distorted, and you may go to fear, but we'll get you out of that. So remember that. Gary Schwartz is a scientist and a researcher at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and I'm an advisor. I'm on his advisory board. He was a tenured professor at Yale that Arizona poached, brought him and his whole team to Tucson, built a research center for him, and he researches life after death. And he has proven on multiple studies and written lots of books about it that he's been able to demonstrate that life continues after bodily death 99.9% of the time. To a scientist, that's never been done, hardly ever. It's very rare that you get that great of statistics. So what he's in the middle of now is he has a multi-university study happening, and they're doing this, they're replicating his research that he did at Arizona. They're replicating it both here in America and abroad. And then they're going to publish that study in some scientific journal. So it's been really fun to be kind of in the, the inner circle as this research has been done at Arizona. And also, well, that's interesting. Let me do that. I lost let me get my slides back up here. Lauren, what do I need to do? She's going to come
Just
on.
reshare.
I have to hit share again. Must be because the energy is so big. So we've got this university-based research being done all over the world now. And what he's working on is technology that's going to be an app on your phone. It's called the Soul Phone app. And you're going to be able to connect with any spirit you want to talk to. Your deceased grandmother, Napoleon, whomever. It doesn't matter. Moses. And they're pretty close to being able to release this. They're working on the switch, but they did their research first so that they can, acknowledge that this is a real thing. And then we're going to have the Soul Phone app before long. Can you imagine that? That anybody's going to be able to talk to their deceased loved ones with their cell phone? How amazing is that? Our heads are like big satellite dishes. They receive and transmit frequencies. Every spirit has a frequency they keep throughout all of their lifetimes. And in order to get in touch with them, all you have to do is think of them. And that tunes your satellite dish head to their frequency. It's similar to a radio station or a satellite TV station or any kind of a TV station. What are you doing? They're broadcasting on a frequency. So for example, you're listening to country music, perhaps on 103.5. That's 103.5 megahertz, That's the frequency on which that music's being broadcast. You'll want to listen to classic rock, you change the channel, let's say to 94.3. Same thing, different frequency, different megahertz, that's that call number. You get a different result. Same with this. Doesn't matter if your loved one or anybody that you want to talk to who's in spirit form, doesn't matter if they've reincarnated, because that frequency stays the same with all lifetimes. Kind of hard to grasp. Hang with me on this. This will become more apparent. Where we tune our satellite dish head is what we get. It's similar to when you've got satellite TV, for example. There's lots of stuff being broadcast on satellite TV. Or if you use Roku, or if you use Netflix. Well, let's say Roku, you got Netflix, you got HBO, you got all these other apps that you can access all these other channels off of the Roku stick. They're all playing simultaneously. It's where do you tune your head's frequency to? That's the spirit you're going to get. Where do you tune your Roku to? That's the channel that you're going to get. Does that make sense? Okay. Karen Walker is a professor at the University of Oregon, and she says that she's done research. She has a great TED Talk. This will be in your resource material after we're done with the class, if you want to watch her TED Talk or listen to it. And she talks about how thoughts originate outside of our heads. They are not, they're not created in our heads. We bring them in. And thoughts don't have a meaning until we give them a meaning. Thoughts are neutral. All thoughts are neutral. But when they come into our heads, they either feel good, which means they're based in love, we're on a love frequency, or they're based in fear and they feel bad. Anything that feels badly is based in fear: anger, jealousy, boredom, grief, actual fear. They're all based in fear. And thoughts have a vibration as well. Because what did we learn when we first started this? Everything is made of energy. Even thoughts are made of energy. So the key is to figure out, what kind of fear is this when we have a thought that feels badly? Is it a rational fear, which means something can hurt us or something can kill us? Or is it an irrational fear, which means it's fake news? It's false. It's based on an irrational belief that's false. Irrational fears are false. 99.99999% of the the thoughts we think that feel bad are based in irrational fear. They're all made up. They're all fake news. They're false. Now, a rational fear is something's going to harm you. You got a tiger chasing you? That's a rational fear. Change the conditions before it eats you for lunch. An irrational fear would be, oh my God, I'm late for my appointment. Regardless of what happens, whether it's an irrational or rational fear, we go into fight or flight. And what happens when we go into fight or flight? It's an autonomic response that our bodies do when we're in fear. It's supposed to keep us alive, which has done a great job. But in our society, there aren't too many tigers chasing us. So we don't need to react to, I'm running late to an appointment, with the same kind of urgency that we do if a tiger's chasing us. When we go into fight or flight, what happens is the blood drains from our brain. Our heart rate goes up, our cortisol levels go up, right? And we lose clarity. We panic. That's what we want to stay out of. Most of us are in a state of panic throughout most of our lives. And we can differentiate between the two. The 2-minute rule is the key. This is the key to doing all of this spiritual stuff. You're going to see as we go through this over the next couple of days how the 2-minute rule is going to be your absolute go-to place to be able to communicate with spirit. The 2-minute rule goes like this. When you have a thought that feels badly, you just ask yourself, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? It's a yes or no answer. If the answer is yes, get out of the road before the truck runs you over. That's a rational fear. If you're standing in the middle of the road and there's a truck or a bus headed for you, change the conditions, get out of the road. That's an appropriate fight or flight response. If, however, you're running late for a meeting, you can go, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? No. And you're going to laugh a lot of the time. This has become such a habit for me. I want you guys to do your best to make this a habit for yourselves. This has become such a habit for me that I just immediately go into it if I have a thought that feels bad. I mean, it's instant. I don't even think about it. I'm just in, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? No. Okay. Don't be such a drama queen, Ryan. Chill out a little bit, which keeps me out of fight or flight, which keeps my brain working well. Gives me the opportunity to have rational thoughts, to receive guidance from spirit. Because remember, spirit's a really high vibration. Spirit doesn't operate on the I feel crappy channels when you're in grief or anger or jealousy or fear or boredom or whatever, because the vibration's too low. It's like the classic rock is a high vibration, or I'm going to date myself, disco music. You can't listen to disco music without being in a good mood. I mean, it just is the way it is. It's a high vibration. Whereas, some whiny country music that's talking about mama, the truck, and the dog and boo-hooing about it, that's a low vibration. Spirit's not going to communicate on that channel because the vibration's too low. When you stay in alignment with your brain and with spirit, you can get guidance like, okay, well, I'll call the doctor's office and say, hey, I'm running late. I'm going to be about 10 minutes late. Is it okay? Can I still come, or do I need to reschedule? Instead of being on the frequency of, oh my God, if I'm late for this appointment, I've waited 9 months for this appointment, I'm not going to be able to get in for another 9 months. If I don't get seen, I've got this thing wrong with me. What if it's cancer? What if it's something that can kill me? And you go down the rabbit hole and you suffer unnecessarily, because what are we doing? We're making up thoughts because our brain is not thinking rationally. We're in an irrational fear that's caused us to be on that vibration of those thoughts, and those thoughts keep coming in. We all do it. We've all done it all our lives. So knock it off with the 2-minute rule. The other thing is, when we go to curiosity, we immediately raise our vibrational level. You're asking the question, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? Yes or no? That's curiosity. Your vibrational level will be raised immediately. Curiosity is based in love. Curiosity is fun. It's interesting. You'll want to know more. The 2-minute rule does that by default. When you use this, and you can use it in any situation, you can use it unlimited times a day. It's free and it's convenient. It works anywhere your brain is, and your brain's usually with you anywhere you are. So it's convenient. What happens is you break free of the fear, and it helps you live a life of joy. I walk around happy 99.9% of the time. I certainly have human experiences where I can feel sad, or if I lose a loved one, certainly the grief is there and all of that. But I go into, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes if I lose a loved one? Feels like it is, but no, it's not. So I stay even. I stay in a high vibe. I can get guidance. I know that I'm not going to act on something when my brain isn't clear. Never act on anything when you're in fight or flight, unless it's a rational fear. Don't make any decisions. Don't make any kind of decision when you're in irrational fear and you feel bad. Get back into alignment, then make a decision for that. Amy Cuddy is a professor at Harvard. And here's another way to raise your vibrational level. The 2-minute rule is a big one. Here's the other one. Amy Cuddy did research that showed a great way to raise our vibrational level and get out of fear and feel good is to stand in the Superman or the Superwoman pose. Hands on hips, legs spread apart. What happens is when we do that, it lessens our stress hormones, our cortisol, our, all of those epinephrine and all those other hormones that are stress hormones. It raises our vibrational level. The dopamine, the serotonin makes us feel good. And that's how our vibrational level raises. Now, here's the Julie Ryan hack. Envision that there's a laser coming from the core of the earth, and it's shooting up through the bottom of your feet, shooting through your body and going out the top of your head. That's the Julie Ryan hack. We're going to talk about that in a minute, why that's so important. I use this all the time. I have been in situations where I'm lecturing at a conference of over 1,000 people, and I'm going on stage, and there are not only double jumbotrons on the stage, but there are jumbotrons like all the way back in the conference hall. You guys have either seen those in person or on TV. You better believe I'm in the ladies' room in the stall, doing my duty to God and my country, and then I'm in the Superwoman pose before I go on stage. And what happens is your vibrational level is jacked up. Before you even open your mouth, people are going to resonate with you because you're giving off a feel-good energy. So keep that in mind. If you have to do something that is stressful, stand in the Superwoman pose. And if you can't stand up, if you're in a meeting or something, just envision that geyser of energy coming up from the core of the earth, coming up through your bottom, and then going down your legs and going up out the top of your head as well, just to raise your vibrational level. As some of you know, I was a sorority advisor, a voluntary sorority advisor at the University of Alabama for 12 years, and 450 girls in the chapter. So I met a lot of girls over 12 years and heard all their stories. And I used to teach them all this about the Superwoman pose. And even now I'm in touch with a lot of them on social media, and some of them are married and they have kids. And I can't tell you how many times I hear, Miss Julie, because we're in the South. Miss Julie, I used the Superwoman pose before I went in for an interview and I got the job. I used the Superwoman pose before I walked down the aisle at my wedding. I used the Superwoman pose before I checked into the hospital to deliver my child. I mean, it's endless. I had to do a big meeting in front of a bunch of executives. I did the Superwoman pose. Oh my God, it works so great. So if it works great for college kids, it'll work great for you too. And then it helps you stay in balance, and it helps you keep your frequency high. You don't feel like a teeter-totter. You're not going back and forth. You stay balanced. You stay in joy most of the time. And when you are feeling badly, unless there's a truck headed towards you, you're in fear, use the 2-minute rule. Get out of it. Spirit can communicate with you. When we're in a high vibration, we live in an attractive universe. So when we're in a high vibration, we attract more good feeling things when we feel good. When we feel badly, we attract more bad feeling things. It sounds super simplistic. It really is that simple. Have any of you ever had a bad day at work or something, and then you're all out of sorts and you can be in a car accident, or you get home and the kids are going nuts, or something along those lines? You attract more bad feeling things when we're in that frequency. The inverse is true as well. When you feel good most of the time, you attract more good feeling things. Okay, so scalar energy, plasma energy, is the main energy that surrounds all of us. And when we are in the field of the scalar energy and the plasma field, we're in order instead of chaos. Chaos is the electromagnetic energy that can cause different things to happen. It's back to the simplistic of when you feel good, your life's in order, you're attracting more good feeling things, you're being shown the way. When your life is in chaos, it's gonna not be great. So it helps you live a life of joy. Einstein says everything's energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality and you cannot but get that same reality. Back to what I was just saying. So let's open it up for questions. I like to open it up at this point because this is just kind of an intro. And then let's get some of your questions answered. We've got about 30 minutes to do that. We're going to take a break and then we're going to have a lot of fun when we come back. So Lauren, can you help us with that? Please raise your hand if you have a question and we'll go from there. Okay, Lauren, I'm going to let you do that. You can spotlight the person and then...
Just make sure that your videos are on for me to spotlight, and then we'll stop these screen shares so that I can get you on camera.
Great. Okay, looks like the first one's it's Mr. Brown, right?
It is.
Steve, hi Steve.
Hi there.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well.
Terrific, so delighted to see you. I got to talk to you at a client call, so it's great to see your cute face too.
Well, it's always interesting to advance ourselves with these fractals of information here.
That's right.
But curiosity, the spirit that came through the door, the dark spirit searching around for his daughter.
Yeah.
Why didn't he transcend or ascend like everybody else we're talking about? Why is he still wandering?
Great question. It's one that I've had many times. Here's my take on it. And it goes something like this. When we transition, we all go to heaven. Our spirits all are escorted to heaven, like in the 12 phases of transition in angelic attendance. We have the prerogative to choose what we want to explore and experience next. So some people want to explore and experience just hanging out in heaven. They're a whole spirit in heaven and, thinking of something and having it materialize right away. Other spirits want to explore what it's like to have one foot in the spirit world and one foot in the human world. Does that make sense? So that's what we call ghosts. That's what we've come to experience as ghosts. A lot of times ghosts don't know they're dead. It's kind of like humans, a lot of humans, until we're taught this, we don't know that we're pure love in spirit form. We think we're our bodies. We think we're our personality. We think that we forget. Everybody comes in and we forget. And then we're seeking that out if we choose to do that in our lifetime. So I've reunited a lot of ghosts with their loved ones. And it's fascinating because we could always get information about them through historic documents. I would say most of the time we've been able to. So this guy in his incarnation as spirit living without a body but in a human existence, he wanted to play that out some more before he just transitioned back into heaven full time. And he wanted to play out what it was like to come back from the war and not have his family there and to look for his daughter. So we reunited them. I brought in his daughter's spirit. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Our spirit can be multiple places all at the same time. We're made in the image and likeness of God in spirit form, right? So if God can be everywhere all at the same time, so can we in spirit form. And you'll experience this more as we go through the class. So her spirit was, yes, reincarnated as my friend Deborah's daughter, Tony. And yes, a fractal of her spirit was still in heaven and had probably reincarnated several times before that. There are some schools of thought that we live multiple lifetimes concurrently. That makes my head want to explode. I don't understand that. So I go to the place of, is it feasible? Well, that's what I've been told a whole lot by spirit. So I figure, okay, I'll figure it out when I go to heaven. I just go to, is it feasible? Yeah. I don't understand it, but it's a thing. So we got his daughter's spirit reunited with him. She led him into the light. Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, is that, so he transitioned, but it decided to reincarnate as a spirit on the earth?
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yes.
So that's what he wanted to do, like many of us come here with a goal, I guess, right?
Yeah. So if you want to reincarnate on a different planet, you can do that. But ghosts, it's my understanding that ghosts are spirits. Everybody goes to heaven. And then we figure out, okay, what do we want our next adventure to be? His adventure was he wanted to be a ghost and experience what it was like to live the human existence when nobody could see him. But my friend Deborah could.
So the other part to that would be, many I know have talked about ghosts in their house. They can hear them downstairs at night, in the kitchen, opening, this and that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And others have drowned or been killed in some way. They transition and they're told they can't come in. No, you got to go back. And none of them want to come back. But for instance, Mary Neal and to heaven and back, she died in a kayaking accident. She was a medical doctor. What's that about?
That's a near-death experience. It's more like a hallucinogenic experience, like if somebody takes LSD or does ayahuasca on an ayahuasca retreat or something like that. They're shown different realities. They don't actually die because they don't go through the 12 phases of transition and stay in heaven. That would be a near-death experience.
Okay, because they found her, she was drowned and she had been under the water for a long time and full of swelled up and everything, but that she hadn't really died though. Well,
she had a near-death experience and I've met her and heard her talks and read her book. I need to have her on the show. But that was a near-death experience that she went through. And there are many stories about somebody who hadn't breathed for it, regardless of the circumstances, sometimes for a long time, like 45 minutes or longer. And they're able to be revived. So that's a near-death experience.
Cool.
Does that help?
Okay. Well, yeah,
okay. Great questions.
Right?
So. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Steve. Joanna.
Yep.
Hey, Julie. Good morning.
Hi, girl.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm with all you guys. It doesn't get any better than this.
Julie, quick question. Do you think that the spirit of the child chooses the mom? Or do you see the spirits connect over and over and over again to learn some lessons? What do you think about that?
Two different questions. Yes. We all choose where we're born, to whom we're born, the circumstances into which we're born, and the trajectory that will allow our life to take. So we can do free will, but we all come in with a basic script. Maybe you want to experience, and it's not so much learn, it's more experience is what I've heard from spirit. There's no like, you got to learn this or you're going to come back and you're screwed in your next life because karma's going to come back and bite you in the rear end. That's not how it works. Everything's an experience from the spiritual perspective. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It's just an experience. So we'll come in with a very generalized script, like you'll want to create. Well, what do you want to create? You're creating stuff throughout your whole life. Look at all the things you've created. I mean, she's a real estate mogul who's creating a new career now. And look at all the things you've created in your life. You've created moving to America. You've created all these things in your life. So it's a very generalized script that we come in of things that we want to create. I, all the time, work with women who are wanting to conceive and wanting to have a baby. And I can scan them and we'll see a little orb it's above the shoulder. And if there are multiple spirits that are choosing that mom to come in, then if they're not multiple births, they'll be stacked out in the distance. Kind of like when you go by a big airport at night, and you can see the planes stacked out and they have their landing lights on. You can see them in the distance. So that's how I can see the baby's spirits that are attached to the mom's energy field. Sometimes they attach years in advance. The other thing that's so interesting about this is, and I've had this experience multiple times, is that adopted children choose the mother that raises them. They choose their birth mother, but they also choose the mother that raises them. And the first time I saw this was we were at a party at our neighbors that lived right behind us. And the gal, the wife, my friend, Andrea, she said, I got a friend here that's, having some medical stuff. Can you scan her? And I said, yeah, sure. So we went off in a corner and this big party going on. And I scanned her. I got her on my radar, and she had baby's energy on either side of her shoulders. And it was like imminent. These babies were ready to be born. And I said, are you pregnant? She didn't look pregnant. I said, are you pregnant? And she burst into tears. And I thought, oh my heavens, I have offended this woman in some way. I don't even know how. And I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And she said, no. So this was a Saturday night. She said, we're leaving Wednesday to fly to Guatemala because we're adopting twins and the babies are going to be born on Friday. And we're going to get to be there when the babies are born. That was the first time I saw adopted. I'm getting goosebumps just telling you about it, which is validation from spirit when we get goosebumps. And I thought, holy moly, how fabulous is that? And I don't know why that surprised me, because by that time I think I had already written Angelic Attendants. And when somebody's dying, it's the adopted mother that runs the show from the spirit world. It's the mother that raises the child who runs the show and brings in the other, angels and all them that we'll talk about this afternoon. So does that answer your question?
Yes. And actually that was a huge surprise to me when I read your book, by the way, seeing that the adoptive parents are first in line, and then comes the actual mom and dad. It's
bio parents.
Bio parents. Yes. Yes, I just really, I've been thinking about this since I had Anais, my daughter, and then I lost 2 children. I have another son, and she's a teenager, and our spirits, just the 2 of us, can really have a very, very fiery conversation, which is exactly what happened this morning. And I've been meaning to ask you that, because it just seems that there's so much that she's teaching me, and I'm teaching her a lot. And I was just thinking, is there something that you come with in a particular life to learn a specific lesson from a mom, or are we connected generationally? So you did answer from that perspective, because of course, right? We even numerology, like you said, there's so much that's happening. And by the way, my birthday is January 7th.
Oh, wow.
Almost
well,
7.
Couple of interesting points too. Everybody we know is a soulmate, not a romantic soulmate, but a soulmate.
Right.
So our parents, you hear the term soul family, same kind of thing. When you meet somebody and you say, oh my God, I feel like I've known them all my life. They're a soulmate, right? And the other thing, when your daughter's being snarky, which is her job as a teenager, right? That's her job. 2-minute rule, girl. 2-minute rule. I'm telling you, you can use it 5 bazillion times a day or more. In any situation, you want to just start practicing with it. And it's going to come in, it's going to keep you calm. She's going to match your vibration. When she gets you wound up, you guys are going to be on that vibration of being snarky with each other. You stay calm. Calm is a higher vibration. She's going to match you, or she's going to go away. She's going to go to her room, or, go someplace else. So yeah, great questions. And perfect timing, because Dr. Gertrude, who's next, is a specialist in female relationships and ancestry and all that stuff. So Gertrude, do you want to say something about that first before you ask your question?
No, I just love that the question came up, because Julie knows I'm writing a book, and I have to have that in there, how we choose our mother, and then adding on to that from Perdita Finn, that we've all been each other's mother, was also a concept that really blew me away. But to me, that just gave me so much relief and presence. Like, we're all learning and growing. I mean, that's a big concept that I want to try and get across, is like, our children we're learning and growing with them. They're teaching us, we're teaching them. And it's not like I'm supposed to know it all and be the expert. So this was great.
Yeah. And no coincidences in life ever. You ask that question and Gertrude's next up? I mean, really.
I know.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if I'm channeling you, Gertrude.
I know.
Feeling your energy, but it just came. And normally I wouldn't necessarily ask this question, because, to be very honest, I know the answer, and I still had to ask
Yeah,
it.
to voice it and put it out.
So that's a great example of you being led to ask that question, not only for yourself, but also for Gertrude to give her input, and for everybody else to hear it. Yeah. So that's how we're led. A thought comes into our head, but I'm telling you, the 2-minute rule is key. It's key. When you are in a crappy mood and you come home from work, and your kids are fine when they were little, go back to when they were little, and they're fine and they're playing and they're whatever, and mom feels awful, well, the kids start acting up because they're going to match your vibration. The other thing is, I know you've probably seen stories or read articles about when a bunch of metronomes that are, that's how somebody learning the piano can get their timing down. It's like a needle that goes back and forth, and they're all going at different rates. You put a bunch of metronomes in a room together, they're all going to synchronize on their own. So that's how the energy works. And that's why the 2-minute rule is so important, to keep your energy level for when you want to make a decision about something. Okay, Gertrude, you got a question. What's your question?
I do. Yeah. This might be just a quick, easy one to answer, but I love the analogy of our body is inside, the spirit, the goldfish in the bag. I haven't heard that one, and I loved it. But I've recently been trying to make this distinction, and it's still fuzzy to me, the difference between spirit and soul, like my spirit and then my soul. I don't think they're the same thing. Does it matter, like, to make the distinction? Are they interchangeable? And I don't know. I've been tossing that around lately, so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think tomato. To me, they're the same thing. There's not a differentiation between them. Does it matter? No. I use spirit primarily because soul to me sounds religious. Spirit sounds more universal to me as a Catholic girl. Soul is something that's a religious term that somebody came up with. I do think it's interesting, however, that when an airplane goes down with a bunch of passengers, they won't say there were 337 people on board. They'll say there were 337 souls on board. And I know that there's a distinction in those. I don't remember what it is. If any of you know, jump in here. But that's how they always say it. They'll report there were whatever the number of souls that perished in that. And
I'm not going to get enough about it. But of course, I looked online, and there are people who really attempt to make a distinction, and I can't even tell you what it is, but I think it doesn't matter, and I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's all everlasting. It's all energy, and I think it means the same thing. And that's what I've heard from Spirit. They say we get too wound up on semantics. We don't need to overcomplicate everything. It's just energy. It's our spirit. It's the everlasting part of us. If you want to call it a soul, great. If you want to call it spirit, great. I don't think it matters. Good question, though. Yeah, Ping.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Ping.
I am a caregiver for my husband, 33 years. He was disabled before I married him for freedom from China. and overwhelming taking care of him. And also over 10 years, my family member come here, I'm taking care of everything, like always doing rush. And now finally I calm down and I listen to you, dispenser meditation, guided medication, all better. And I'm full of energy, but I'm still have a problem. You know, I could not, my English communication always better because the second language. Now I even could not describe in Chinese a story clearly. So I just need some help. How can help me? You know, clean them up.
So your question is, how can you speak better English, or your question is, you want to tell us a story?
No, how to help me mind, describe things better, communication better. Even I
Just
could not
ask.
describe
Just
it
ask.
in
Just
Chinese
ask Spirit.
better.
You know,
That's my problem.
yeah, but our heads, and you're gonna have lots of practice this weekend, and then we have 9 practice groups a week, you guys. We're gonna talk more about that after the break, where that's when your skills really ramp up. And the 9 practice groups, choose at least one a week and go to it. Even if you don't say anything, because when you sit in this high vibe, then you start doing this. And the practice groups are free for the rest of your life. I mean, as long as I'm alive, there'll be practice groups as long as we're doing this. And the community continues to expand. So Ping, remember, our heads are big satellite dishes. They receive and they transmit frequencies. Every thought has a frequency. Ask, hey, God, spirits, angels, you know, grandma, whomever, I need help transmitting a story in English so that it's understandable. I need help in conveying this message. Gertrude and I have a mutual friend named Perdita Finn, and she's been on my show a couple of times. And she is just such an extraordinary gal. And she, every morning before she gets out of bed, she says her prayers, she and her husband, Clark. And then she has a checklist, okay, of all of her spirits and her angels. She'll say, okay, Mom, I need you to do this. Dad, I need you to do that. Archangel Michael, I got this for you. You know, whomever. And she gives them a list of things she needs help with. And she said she gets every one of them. They all come true. So we can find out when we talk to spirit in the practicum part, Ping, we can find out who perhaps one of your spirit guides is that can help you convey stories better and become more proficient in English. Does that sound like a plan?
I'm in the right place.
Yes, you are, my girl. And we're thrilled to have you. And you're totally understandable to all of us. So you're good. If we don't understand what you're saying, we'll ask you. So welcome, welcome. Okay, who's next? Joe.
Hi, Julie. Bonnie and I are here. Hello.
Hi, Bon. How
Hi.
are ya?
Good.
Great
thank
to have you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
I'm on my other computer, but I think I'll shut it off. This one's faster so we can sit together. So I want to say first, thank you for seeing Dad, John Knott. Mom passed away January 10th. And he had met you on a Tuesday night, one of your sessions, and you really helped him. You know, you said, I can see Carol there next to you. She's worried, her pearls, give them to your
Necklace.
the coffee, and something about a mouse, right? So it's really,
Did those make sense to him?
they make sense.
They're getting there.
Yep,
Yeah.
they absolutely make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
He was just a delight. He was
Yeah.
just,
Well, he's being naughty because he's drinking coffee like at 8 p.m. He's 86. Mom would not want him to be drinking coffee at 8 p.m. He wonders why he can't go to bed, right? So I
funny.
think that was it, yeah. But
Yeah.
and I think you answered my question. I just I've been trying, read your book, Bonnie and I did. We also read the Barbara, the doctor.
Brennan.
Yes, read her book about energy. So we've been trying to practice before the class.
Great.
You know, what I'm struggling with is trying to see that transfiguration or that aura, but it sounds like we'll be having a lot of practice.
Oh yeah. And it's
I have
going to
to-
come in.
I have to
It's
say, I've been hearing more
Great.
of spirits. I heard Mom yell at me the other day. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but she said, Joseph. I was like, whoa, okay, I'm doing something. I better watch myself, right? And I smelled her perfume the other day. I felt
Yeah.
her much. Bonnie even saw her at the funeral.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
walking past
Yeah.
me when I was hugging someone.
Yeah. So really,
Yeah.
Wonderful. And
Yeah.
this is going to really ramp up, and where it ramps up is in the practice groups. You're going to be able to, this is going to increase this weekend, but it's over time, and you're just going to be amazed at how your skills come in. Everybody has them. Everybody's going to experience it. I love, Bon, that you saw her at her funeral. My girlfriend, Angela, her mom died it was in August, the year that she passed. And then Angela graduated. She's a psychologist, and she graduated with her PhD that following December, a few months later. And I went with Angela to the funeral home for the visitation to make sure that her mom's body was laid out in the casket right. And I went with her to take the clothes the day before and all that. So anyways, it's summertime. Her mom was born in the early 1900s. And at the graduation, Angela said they were lined up, they had their caps and gowns on and all that stuff, and they were getting ready to process in, and her mom's spirit walked by. And she called me right afterwards, and she said, I knew it was my mom's spirit because it was December, and my mother wouldn't be caught dead wearing white shoes and carrying a white purse in December, because back to the old, you don't wear white after Labor Day,
that's for sure.
kind of thing. And I said, well, obviously she was caught dead wearing white.
Uh-huh.
But I remember succinctly because when we were at the funeral home checking her out, they had her white sandals on her feet in the casket.
Wow.
And she was wearing the outfit, Angela said she was wearing the outfit that they buried her in. So, yeah, that just reminded me of that story when you said you saw. Do you go by Joe or Joseph? I forget.
Joe is
Joe,
fine.
okay, that's
Absolutely,
what I thought.
Joe. Yep.
I must be psychic or something.
That's
called
right,
you Joe. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I've gotten some allergy or something. My voice is kind of off, and
It
you might
sounds
be
great.
Laying down here a little bit, I'm kind of
Coughing.
but I didn't want to miss this. Didn't want to miss it. So,
Oh, good. Well, we're thrilled to have you both.
Yeah. yep.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Thanks for taking
Okay,
Thanks, Julie.
Miss Terry,
Hi, Julie. So
Hi,
happy
girl.
to be here.
we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. So my question is, how do you raise your frequency, or is it harder to raise your frequency when you're going through the grief process? Does it make it harder for example, my mom to show herself to me because during grief, my frequency might be lower?
Yes, absolutely. So raise your frequency 2-minute rule.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel badly, when you're in grief, it's a low vibration. And so we feel badly. So 2-minute rule. If I'm in grief, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? No, it's not. So remember, curiosity, you're going to go right away. That's going to raise your vibration. And then you have another thought come in, and it may feel bad. And then you do the 2-minute rule again. You do it until you're feeling at least level. Again,
Okay.
you're feeling neutral. That's number one. And then what we talked about a few minutes ago, the Superwoman pose.
Right.
Stand in the Superwoman pose. That immediately raises your vibrational level. When we're in grief, a really good way to deal with grief when we're not being able to communicate with our loved ones is to ask them to visit us in dreams.
Okay.
Just say, hey, Mom, visit me in my dreams tonight. Let's meet in Tahiti, or let's meet in the living room of the house that I grew up in, or something along those lines. And the reason why that's easier for spirit, remember, they're a really high vibration. And when we're in grief, we're in a low vibration. So it's like trying to listen to country music on the disco channel. That's not what they're playing.
Right.
So spirit doesn't communicate on the I feel crappy channels because the vibration is too low. And so when we ask them to visit us in our dreams, what we have access to then is our spirit always resets when we sleep at night. I say it goes back to the factory presetting, which is a high vibration of spirit. And during the day, we're busy, we're stressed, we may be in grief, whatever. We're fighting with our teenage daughter, Joanna, whatever. And so when we go to sleep, our brains have a chance to rest, and we also are going to reset. That's why you hear about astral travel while
Right.
somebody's sleeping. it's because they've reset back to the high frequency level. Does that help?
Oh, it does. And just real quick, the second question is, if they've recently passed, are they also in transition on learning how to relate to us, or does it just automatically happen?
There are some schools of thought that think that spirits need help in being able to communicate with us. I have not found that to be the case. My experience has been we can communicate with spirit while they're still attached to a body. That's how I do the medical stuff. That's how we talk to somebody who's dying. We have the ability to connect with them instantly. So I'm not sure why. There are a lot of people that believe that and have experienced that. That has not been my experience.
Okay, great. Thanks for answering my question.
You bet. You bet. We got time for one more question. Hi, Shauna. You gotta unmute, girl.
Sorry.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. My question is about, I wrote in on the form too that in 1995, I did 1 year of the Barbara Brennan class.
Yeah.
But they told it, I'm an empath, so doing the chelations and stuff, when I would do a chelation on someone, I physically would feel in my body what they had going on, and then I would describe it. But they told me that if you can't learn to stop the energy, put a block off, that by year 2 you could get really sick, or it could throw you away from the table. The energy could be really strong. And I've always been so much of an empath, and I take everything in. I don't know how to keep it separate.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We'll cover that. We'll cover that. Barbara Brennan was brilliant, and she was a book that I read. Her stuff's 45 years old.
Right.
So we've advanced a lot
Yeah.
since that time, and there are techniques now that we can use. And the number one thing is, well, you got to block this stuff off. You can't have this energy come. What are you doing? You're in fear.
Going in fear. Exactly.
You're in fear. When you're in fear, you've knocked yourself out of alignment with spirit. You've gone to the whining country music station complaining about mama, the truck, and the dog, when you want to be on the Gregorian chant station in the solfeggio frequencies where spirit communicates. So we'll go over all that. Great question. Bring that back up. If it
well,
doesn't.
And I thought, from everything I've been hearing is, if we just keep ourselves at a higher vibration,
Right.
it can't get to us.
Right. 2
What I
minute
think the
rule.
answer is, but
2 minute rule, 2 minute rule, 2 minute rule.
thanks.
Superwoman pose. You're going to be really good at that. The Barbara Brennan stuff is a great place to catapult us from not knowing about any of this into where we are now. So over the last 30 years, what I've done is perfected things, had my own experience. I took the initial things that I learned in that class by her student, and then I parlayed it into my own techniques, and that's what you're going to hear now. I equate it to, we used to use carrier pigeons to communicate across vast distances, and then we used the Pony Express, and then we used the Wells Fargo wagon, and then we, the mail went by train or by whatever, and now we can communicate instantly with the internet and with our phones and all of that. So we've progressed a long way in this energy work and spiritual work since 45 years ago. So great question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. You bet. When we come back, we are going to go into an exercise that is going to teach us all how to do remote viewing. And then we're going to have a practicum. And you guys, it is such a blast. So enjoy your little break. I'll see you back here at, what's the time?